Hey, Calculus kiddos. Welcome to week 13, Monday for Calculus AB Semester 1. You guys are on week 13, so I hope you guys had a good 2 days off for the virtual days, and I hope you were able to catch up on some sleep and then also catch up on some of your assignments. Go ahead and pause the video and take a look at the following 3 warm-up questions. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So last time I saw you guys on Friday, we talked about mean value theorems and also Rolle's theorems. And so here was one of the questions from your textbook that was also part of your guided notes from week 12 Friday. And that says, use MVT to find the value C. And remember what mean values theorem means is that there are 3 different things. Number 1 is it continuous? And if you look at this, if I were to graph it, it is continuous. There's no breaks. It's not going to be, skipping places on the graph. So it is continuous. So check that off. Number 2, is it differentiable? Meaning that would I be able to find the f prime of x? Well, I probably would, because f of x is going to be 2 minus x to the 1/2. So then if I were to find f prime of x, I would just have to go ahead and say, let u be 2 minus x, u prime is -1, so then f of x is equal to u to the 1/2. F prime of x, in this case, will be a 1/2 u to the -1/2 times u prime. So then if you go ahead and substitute everything back, you have 1/2, 2 minus x to the -1/2 times -1, which is just going to be -1/2. Extend that out, 2 minus x to the 1/2. So that is your f prime of x, okay? So it is differentiable. Then what you're going to do on the third step is, remember, you would have to go ahead and find the average rate of change, okay? Remember, this right here is f prime of x, and f prime of x is the instantaneous rate of change. And generally what we do here is, we need to set the two equal to each other in order to find C. So once I find that average rate of change, I will set it equal to IROC, which is instantaneous rate of change, and I will go ahead and solve for x, and whatever x is your C value. So then looking at your average rate of change, it is going to be f of b minus f of a over b minus a. So here your a is -7, b is 2, so then I will have to have f of b is equal to the square root of 2 minus 2, which is just 0. Then f of a is going to be the square root of 2 minus -7, or a positive 7, plus 2 equals 9, which is then 3. So then b minus a is a 0 minus 3 over b minus a, which is a 2 minus -7, which is a -3 over a positive 9, which is a -1 over 3. Okay, so then looking at this here, I'm going to take my instantaneous rate of change and set it equal to my average rate of change. So then I will go ahead and have a -1 over 2. 2 minus x to the positive 1/2 equals -1 over 3. Well, first thing I notice is I can just cancel out the negatives on both sides because now both of them are positive. And then if I cross multiply, I have a 3 equals 2 times 2 minus x to the 1/2. Divide a 3 over, I have a 3 over 2 equals a square root of 2 minus x. Now, in order for you to get rid of the square root, I would have to square both sides. So that's going to be a 9 over 4. is equal to 2 minus x. If I add the 2 on, or excuse me, if I subtract the 2 on both sides, I will have a negative x is equal to 9 over 4 minus a 2 over 1. But then remember, you can combine your like terms if I make this a 2 and this a 4. So that will give me a 5, or, I'm sorry, I don't need a 2, I need a 4. So let's go back. So if I make that a 4 and that a 8, I will have a 1 over 4, and that's for a negative x. So a positive x is going to be equal to a negative 1 over 4. And this is your C value. You will have definitely like at least one questions on MVT on your calculus exam, and the other one probably will be rows. So today is actually our day 2 of mean value theorem and then also Rowe's theorem. So take a look at our breakdown of what we're going to be talking about. And let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today your notes will be on week 13, Monday, and it looks like this. I know there's a lot of steps, so a lot of different examples from your textbook. So just take a look at them. If you need to review them with the steps, here they are. You can also go ahead and do them and then check your steps with mine. And what I want you guys to do is just take a moment and go ahead and read the differences between the mean value theorem and then also the Rowe's theorem. Take a look at the diagram, try to make sense of how the diagram is matched to the formula itself. All right, then go ahead and take a look at the next step of the guided notes, which is this page right here. And if you look at it, here's the mean value theorem, and then here's a Rowe's theorem. You have all the steps given to you guys, so take a look at the steps. All right, so let's take a look at mean values theorem first. I want you guys to pause the video and draw a diagram to represent MVT. How will your diagram represent this formula? Okay, so here's my diagram, and basically what I have is I have two different lines, okay? I have a line that is going to be the tangent, and the other one that's a secant where there are 2 points between A and B. And what I'm showing here is that I have the slope formula of f of A, f of B, because once I go ahead and find the slope formula, that slope is going to give me this value C right here, which represents the same slope if these 2 points got closer together to make one point right here, which is a tangent line. Go ahead and read the steps, and then we'll go on to example 1. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at example 1 here. It says find the C based on the mean values theorem. Okay, so first things first. On your steps, let's just go ahead and check them off as we go along with this. Just be easier if I just move it over here. Okay, so looking at this right here, check the continuity, make sure there's no break between the endpoints. And so that's the first thing I'm gonna do. So step number 1, make sure you go ahead and check f of, in between here, -2, f of -1, f of 0, f of 1. Make sure they actually equal a number. And the best way to do this is if you just go ahead and graph y equals 2x cubed plus x plus 4, and then try the second calc value option to make sure that you have an answer and there is no break or discontinuities on this function. And it does, it's fine. So step number 2, check the differentiability and make sure you actually can find the derivative of this. This is going to be a very simple power rule. So if I were to go ahead and do the f prime of x with the first derivative, it's just a 6x squared plus 1. And then third step, find the average rate of change. Remember, this right here is the instantaneous rate of change, which is the first derivative. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do f of b minus f of a over b minus a, which is the average rate of change. So then f of b is going to be equal to, if I, okay, here we go. Okay, if I go ahead and plug in, and this is a and this is b, I will have 2 times 1 cubed plus 1 plus 4. Now, since you already have this in your calculator, you can just do a second calc to make sure what it is. But if you don't, you can do this manually. It will just take some time. So 2 plus 1 plus 4 is going to give me a 7, and that's your f of b. Okay, so then let's take a look at f of a. So f of a, you're going to do the same thing, although if you do it manually, it might take you a little bit longer. So negative 2 to the third power is going to give me a negative 8. Negative 8 times 2 is a negative 16. 16 minus 2 plus 4 is a negative 18. Plus 4 is a negative 14. So that is your f of a. So then when I go ahead and take those two numbers and I plug it into my average rate of change, I will have b, which is 7, minus a, which is negative 14, over b, which is a 1, minus a. So that becomes a plus, this becomes a plus, 21 over 3, which is just going to give you a 7. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this part equal to 7 and solve for x, and that is my last step. So here we go. Set f prime of x equals that, solve for x, okay? So I have 6x squared plus 1 is equal to 7, minus the 1, 6x squared equals 6, divided by 6, x squared equals 1, so x equals plus or minus 1. And that is my answer. All right, so now let's jump over to rules. For Rolle's theorem, here are the rules and the theorem, how the theorem is broken down to. I want you guys to draw a diagram similar to what you did with MVT, but represent it to rows. All right, so here is my diagram. As you can see here, the tangent line, the slope is simply equal to 0. It is not at an incline. You don't have a positive or negative slope. It's just at 0. So essentially, Rolle's is a little bit easier than MVT because MVT, your average rate of change is always like another number that's other than 0. This actually is going to be a lot easier because you won't actually have to do all of this. You just equal to 0. So once you find the first derivative, set it equal to 0. So it's a little bit less of a challenge. Okay, so then with that said, let's go ahead and go over an example. So here we go. Here's example 2. So same example. Just go ahead and put the steps right here so it's a little bit easier for us to go over. All right, so let's take a look here. Step number one, check for continuity, make sure it's continuous, and let's go ahead and see. So number one, you're gonna make sure that f of, and these are the 2 points, 1, f of 2. Make sure you have no breaks in between, and I know I don't, so that's good. And I would just go ahead and put this into the graphing calculator, just so I have it, and just put y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2, and then just have your second calc x value option as a backup. Second step, check for differentiability. So then, can I use or find f prime of x? That should be fairly simple because you'll be able to do it with just a simple power rule, 2x minus 3. And then notice that third step, you don't have to find the average rate of change because you know it's equal to 0, okay? And so what I'm going to do is that I want to make sure on the third step, f of a is equal to f of b. And so let's try that. So f of a, which is 1, because this is 1a, b is 2, is equal to f of b, which is f of 2, okay? And if you can plug it in here, f of 1 is going to be 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 2. So 1 minus 3 plus 2 is 0. So then let's try the other one. F of 2 is equal to 2 squared minus 3 times 2 plus 2, which is a 4 minus 6 plus 2, which is also 0. So then here, since we're checking it, does 0 equals 0, which is f of 1 equals f of 2, which is f of a equals f of b? Check. Yes, it is. Okay. And if it does not, then Rowe's theorem fails and it does not apply, and you can just stop right there and do not proceed any further. But since it does equal, we are going to proceed further. So step 4, if yes, then set f prime of x equal to 0. So my f prime of x is equal to 0. 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Add the 3 on both sides, divided by the 2. This is your C right here. And that is your value. All right, you guys, I'm gonna have you go ahead and practice this a little bit. Those are the 2 different concepts. This is our second day on this. I definitely want to give you guys more of a visual on how to work on this. So now go ahead and turn over to this page. And the first thing that you're gonna do is I want you to just go ahead and practice with some of these examples right here. Okay, if you do, however, need the steps of this, let me make sure I show you where it is. Here is the link for the steps. It's not on your paper. I noticed that I didn't do that, but it'll definitely be down there for next year. And notice that there's a capital E. And once you go ahead and type this tiny URL in, although it's a bit URL, they'll have the steps on a video for you guys. And you can go ahead and follow along with the video, or if you need to fast forward it, you definitely have that as an option. And then lastly, I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at this question right here, which is a 2014 free response question that my students had. There's only so many questions that they can give you, so I think it's always important to kind of go over the FRQs from previous years. You will not be able to do question D because this is the evaluation of the integral, which we haven't talked about, but up to A, B, and C, you should be able to do that. And if you need to take a look to see how this problem is done, here is the link to it. Go ahead and type that in. And you will be able to see the breakdown of how this is done. And actually, let me make sure I share that. There we go. So it gives you the breakdown, 1 point for answer with justification, 2 points for the following, and it's using a mean values theorem, 3 points if you did the work properly, and 3 points if you did the fundamental theorem of calculus, which you have not learned yet, but we will next semester. So here are some of the answers from the previous year that students have done. These are actual answers, which I think is kind of good to see what some of the students, like you guys, such as yourself, are writing and how they're sharing their work. I know I'm kind of going a little bit fast here, but you guys will have this document. This is another student. And notice how some of them, they do explain the questions a little bit different. It's just like the style of how they explain it. And so, what I would like you guys to do is just kind of look at these questions and then think about, if I were the grader and these are the questions that I see, how many points would I award them? One, two, out of three, out of three. How would I go about doing that for part A, B, C? And if you want to kind of jump ahead and look at D, that's fine as well. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time. As always, stay safe and healthy. And if you need anything, please email me at ncallahan@washowschools.net. Take care.